Let's look at Jeremiah 19 real quick. Thus says the Lord God, Lord, go buy a potter's earthenware flask and take some of the elders of the people and some of the elders of the priests and go out to the valley of the son of Hinnom at the entry of the postern gate and proclaim there the words that I tell you. You shall say, hear the word of the Lord, O kings of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I am bringing such disaster upon this place that the ears of everyone who hears of it will tingle, because the people have forsaken me and have profaned this place by making offerings in it to other gods, whom neither they nor their fathers nor their kings of Judah have known. And because they have filled this place with the blood of innocents, and have built the high places of Baal. I did a video recently about this. To burn their sons in the fire as burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command or decree, nor did it come into my mind. So I wanted to, this is important because we're going to talk about the cult of Baal here in a minute. Yeah, so the cult of Baal is something that somebody who was connected to Epstein or his niece claimed that they called themselves the cult of Baal.
So my name is Anya Wick, but at birth I was Anya Beth Epstein. I had realized what I was surrounded by my entire life and thought I could hide from it. And I married a man named Wick, kept that name, and decided to start going public with my story. I had chemically driven amnesia the majority of my life. I am Jeff Epstein's niece, and I was raised as a sex slave. My father had me separated from my mother and twin brother and administered a substance that was designed to sever my memory. Every time I was taken to or family vacation or trip to the cabin in the mountains, I was given this drug upon which everything would come flooding back. But when it wore off, so would the majority of my memories of it. And I would try to go to school, perform with my bands, be a regular person. But it broke me subconsciously. I knew something was very wrong, but I had internalized it on myself. And after an attempt in 2015, I got away from the slavery I was in by taking testosterone, transitioning to male. I left Colorado in 2017 and started piecing together back memories that I had assumed were only nightmares in about 2020. I had some memories I retained, but because of the nature of the substance I was on, made that reality so different than my regular life. I thought these were nightmares, that I was sick, and I didn't tell anybody. It goes back for generations. They told me that we belonged to the cult of Baal, Baal. They told me this with consistency while I was being abused. Now, what you can look up about the cult of Baal, information that is publicly available, is that it is thousands of years old. It is a Phoenician satanic fertility cult. And publicly, it's supposed to have been eradicated. But to my knowledge and my experience, it is not. This is what people perceive the Illuminati to be. It is a group of elites that practices forced and uses these crimes to control people. They happen to have a huge reach over politics and entertainment. My great-grandfather, according to my father, was Walt Disney. Before he moved to the United States, his name was Artur Bick, Arturbicke. And his twin sister, who he had children with, who I am descended from, was named Minnie. That's where we get Mickey and Minnie Mouse. It's very cute, right? Except for when you consider the abuse that I suspect is still happening to children who go into the entertainment industry, children who are born into it. My father was abused by his parents, and I was raised going to these giant where I would meet other children who were put on television. I was raised getting taken to Bohemian Grove, where I was after a ceremonial corpse burning Alex Jones has talked about. And my memories of these circumstances are still somewhat fragmented. These assaults happened a couple times a month, and I'm blessed not to remember every detail. To answer your basic question, why my family does this, because it was done to them, because having one man bear as many children in a generation as possible and forcing them through these traumatic events, they believe it creates a stronger bond, that creates more loyalty, that it keeps people from talking. And for the most part, they're right, because I'm the only one of my siblings who has directly spoken out about this. There are people who have hinted at it in their music. Of course, Justin Bieber has talked about being assaulted by Usher and Justin Timberlake at P. Diddy's parties, but I don't think it's a coincidence they've only gone after Sean Combs and not his other alleged perpetrators who were born into the bloodline. There seems to be a level of protection for people who are simply born into that world, contrasted with people like Sean Combs or R. Kelly, who joined as adults. But I was not in the boardrooms. I was a child on drugs. So I can't tell you exactly who organizes this, exactly how it happens. It's just speculation and memory. The cult of Baal, B-A-L.
Yes.
B-A-L.
Yep.
I know very little about it. My family masqueraded themselves as Jewish publicly. But behind closed doors, at Passover dinners, when I was drugged, would admit, we are Satanists. Now, what I can understand is the public has caught on to this, but they call them the Illuminati. And I find that interesting because Illuminati means illuminated. I perceive the Illuminati, in fact, to be individuals like yourself, other conspiracists like Alex Jones, even people like Kanye West who have been trying to illuminate people to this. I do not believe it is a unified organization, but a loose collection of individuals who are illuminated to the cult of Baal, who has successfully mythologized themselves as the Illuminati and convinced people that they are shape-shifting reptilians, myths that can be perpetuated by the psychedelic nature of the tool that they use to abuse victims, which is used to delegitimize people who catch on to what they have been doing. They control so much more than I think even I can understand. I remember meeting all sorts of politicians, American and foreign, and entertainers. I have met everyone who has been an American president in my lifetime, including Donald Trump, who I have to say looked like he was at a funeral when he was at the inauguration the second time around. I don't think he wanted any part of it. I have met the Kardashians, which is why I believe Kanye West has appeared to have gone off his rocker. I have met Harvey Weinstein. The same night, I met Jeffrey and Ghislaine, and he wouldn't make eye contact with me. He did not want to participate in the abuse of the small children. I believe that's a man who is behaving as most Hollywood producers do. Which doesn't make what he did with those actresses okay. But it looks to me like this is a man who was an easy scapegoat, who wanted to expose what takes place with children in the industry and with our family. There are a lot of people like that who have been vilified as, and while they are not innocent, it's like choose your evil. Jeffrey was not a hardcore. He was guilty for what he did to those teenagers. But my family ritualizes the of 3-year-olds, which Jeffrey was not privy to.
So now we're going to look at this video. Now I want to make this, this is called Golden Ladle and the Cult of Baal Map Explained. Now I want to point out up front that their explanation seems to be the beliefs of the mystery schools. And so I'm not saying to agree with their conclusions, but I do find this very interesting.
That necessitate a little explanation. So the first thing to see on here is at the very top of that Sephiroth shape, those two sort of platforms that stick out of it. I'm not even really sure what they are. They're kind of like little horns, but they're kind of like Greek platforms, landing platforms maybe, of these Sumerian gods that landed and gave us this religion. So you've got on the left Baal worship and on the right human sacrifice. And so that's sort of the core of this, the cult of Baal. And actually on the Sephiroth version of this, it said Baal worship and cannibalism. And the reason why it was that specifically was because when you take the word Canaanites and add on Baal worship, or just Baal, you get the word.
All right, I'm pausing this here. I'll make sure I'm unmuted. Okay. I'm pausing this here because, like I said, I think there's some truth to this, but you know how they have the Moses tablets of the law right here, and King Solomon, as if this is coming out of Babylon, and they're kind of putting the Bible in with all this stuff. I think that the truth of God was perverted and mixed in with this. This is probably how they see it. You know, if you like, I've mentioned the documentary Zeitgeist, which is on YouTube and in other videos. I don't think I have in the last two, but Zeitgeist is a conspiracy video that starts out by claiming that the Bible is like basically created by these mystery schools. And it sounds like they're kind of doing the same thing. Now, I think it's similar, but I think that somehow they infiltrated wolves in sheep's clothing, perverted what God did. So I don't personally believe that the Moses tablets of the law have anything to do with this. Unfortunately, I think many of the Jewish high priests got mixed into this stuff. So let's just keep going. I just wanted to pause and say that. So don't believe everything you hear about their conclusions. But I do find that this, human sacrifice, Baal worship, and this whole thing is there's probably a lot of truth to it. Now, the tribe of Dan, I don't know if the tribe of Dan sold their soul to the devil, if people from the tribe of Dan fell away, or if that's just, again, some sort of a connecting the Bible to these things kind of a thing. So now over here on the left, son of Osiris, Jesus. No, that's definitely not true. I think that's similar to what Zeitgeist would say. So there's disinformation with this stuff. I think that there's a mixture of truth and lies in here. I don't know what Pitter and Jehovah connection. I don't know what that Jupiter. Oh, they're connecting Jupiter with Jehovah down here. So I think that there's some, the synagogue of Satan, it says, it's interesting how they use biblical language to define this. It says of elite Judean. I think there's some truth here. I don't know why this thumb thing is in the way. I can't get rid of it. So I'm just kind of looking at this. I think what happened over the years is there were infiltrations. Now, with Solomon is interesting because Solomon did, during his life, marry a lot of pagan women, and he fell away for a while. So it's possible that Solomon was connected to some of this stuff for a while. Say Genesis correlates Sumerian mythology. Well, I'll just say that real history in Genesis correlates with a lot of ancient legends around the world because it's true, like Epicus of Gilgamesh and others. Moloch is biblical Baal. That's probably true. So it is interesting to look at. So remember on that playlist, this playlist called that this is a video that's on there. But anyway, let's continue. I just wanted to pause and look at some of this.
Cannibal, and that's how the word cannibal came from. And it's because some of these Canaanites, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them were cannibals. Actually, while we're on that note, a very important disclaimer for this entire map is that, let's see, let me find the line where I explained it best. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that each of these groups has mostly good people in it. It's just this elite, the top, I would say 1%, maybe even like 1% of the 1%.
Okay, over here, Judea, Second Temple, Synagogue of Satan. Now, the Synagogue of Satan, it's interesting, in Revelation it says they say they are Jews but are not, but they're of the Synagogue of Satan. I think they're wolves in sheep's clothing. I think that they are using what God made. And the same thing is true in Christianity. I think there's wolves in sheep's clothing that are actually of the Synagogue of Satan, that actually are pastors of churches. And same thing with rabbis and all that stuff. So this is not focusing on an ethnicity by any means. I think that there was a mixture of good, godly people in this Second Temple, but I also think that there was a perverse movement that was and is the Synagogue of Satan. So anyway, I wanted to pause and say that.
That are guiding this whole thing, and it's the same way they're guiding the entire population. So obviously, you know, there's good people in all these organizations, and it's really just actually the leaders, maybe not even the only leaders, but the leaders who manage to stay in power that are the evil ones that are practicing this human sacrifice and that are like really into the Baal worship. So is that clear that, you know, I'm not like insinuating that for especially like the Masons really take offense to this because they're like, well, we don't worship Lucifer because I have the Luciferian caption on there. But their leader or one of their most famous authors of the Freemasons, Albert Pike, did write that they worship Lucifer at the 33rd degree. So that's like,
yeah, that's very true, because there's a lot of Freemasons that have no idea what they're in. They're kind of at the low levels. They really don't know anything. The top level Freemasons do worship Lucifer. So,
you know, a very small percentage of Masons, and I think that's the 33rd degree of only the Scottish Rite as well. So any Blue Lodge Masons like never going to hear about this Luciferianism, and any I'm not sure about this, but probably not even Yorkish Rite. I think it's really only the Scottish Rite that was the branch of Freemasonry that was infiltrated by this power structure. So just understand that there's more research to do to figure out like which of these people were
I do think
infiltrated.
there's some
Like,
truth to that. As far as now, St. Peter has nothing to do with this. The Vatican believes that Peter was the first pope. I don't believe that's true. I do think that the Vatican, at some point, whether it was began as controlled by these Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, or they came in later, was a political takeover of the church. And I don't think it was ever the true church. So I hope I'm not, well, I don't really care. I'm just saying what I think the truth is. So if anybody's offended by that, you know, if it's not true, you don't need to be offended. Just go out and seek the truth for yourself. If you're a Catholic, I'm not attacking you. I just think at the top levels, there's some, you know, and the same thing is true in the Protestant movement. I'm not pushing any section or denomination or anything like that. I'm pushing truth, plain and simple. So I'm not against anybody. And if you think I'm wrong, go out and prove it. Go seek the truth, you know?
sometimes it's written here, like, but it's not always completely clear. And I don't want it to seem like I'm saying everyone in this whole society was like a Baal worshiper or like a Satanist. So hopefully that's clear.
Definitely. We know most of these people are good people, especially through, Masons. They're just people there looking for a kind of brotherhood.
There's the USA. You remember in the last video, I talked about the United States being, started by Freemasons and largely controlled, and their plans to create a new world order. So yeah, there's a lot of truth to this right here. So just a little more.
Or something like that.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted to play on that one.